Welcome Unreal developers, in this video we are going to start our first person shooter series, stay tuned. I know a lot of tutorials start with the third person template, and that makes sense because you want to see a character instead of floating arms when you are inside a multiplayer game. But we will start with the third person template and break everything down to understand how it works. We can change the character to third person character later on at any point. So with that being said, click on third person character and give it a nice name and create the project. So this is it how it will look like when you start it for the first time. I press this button to get the tree of my files. If you ain't got the world settings right now, just click on settings and on world settings and you will get this too. So for everybody who has never seen the first person template, this is it. You can move, you can jump and you can shoot. And you also got some physical interactions with your gun. And you got the crosshair. So let's take a look at this. We are going into our first person blueprint, into the blueprint, and here we got our first person character. We are opening that. And by the way, you don't really need to guess where all this stuff is. You can also go to your world settings, go here to selected game mode, and here you can see the first person character template, the default pawn class. Just click here and you will be there. So with that being said, we are inside here and you can see here 3 tabs. You see the viewport, which will be a representation of your character inside the game. You can see the construction script, which will always be called when you are tracking your pawn inside the game. And then you can see the event graph. This will determine how your character will behave inside the game. So let's take a look at the viewport. As you can see, there are 2 guns and there is a good reason for that. Because as you can see on the left side, it is for virtual reality. So we won't use that, so we will delete that later on. Let's go here to the construction script. As you can see, it is attaching a component. We got the target, that's our pistol, the first person gun, and we got here the parent mesh, which will be the arms. And we are parenting them and we melt them together, so now they are one piece inside the game. After that, we are inside our event graph. Here we have the begin play event, which will be called when we start the game. And here it will determine if you are using a virtual reality device or if you won't use one. And here you can see we got our mesh again, and it will set to hidden if you're using a virtual reality device. Because if you're looking here, you will see that it is not hidden by default, while the virtual reality gun is hidden by default. So we don't need the virtual reality gun, so we don't need to check at all, and we can just delete everything here. And this here again is for virtual reality only. We're going to delete this here. Here we got the movement. Here is also virtual reality part. It is asking if we got the mounted display. If the answer is yes, it will take this value. Instead, it will take the false. So we are tracking this line into our world direction, and we will remove the remaining parts. So same thing is here. We are tracking the false into the world direction and remove the rest. So this is how the movement is working. This is move forward. I will go soon there, or how it is called. This here is just for a gamepad. We also go to remove this one here. Here we got the mouse, and here we got the jump. This is where I want to cover these actions, these events. We are going back here into settings and project settings. on the left side, go to input, and here you got axis and action mapping. So what's the difference between them? Action mapping is just something like you pressed a button or you did not press a button. So it would be something like jump or not jump. The opposite would be the axis mapping. As you can see, we got here move forward, and we got here two keys set up and a value. So if you are pressing W, the value will be 1, and if you're pressing S, the value will be -1. So you will move forward and backward. This is used for something like analog sticks or for the mouse. So when you set up any key, you should do it here. But inside our project, we will change it at the end of the project, and during the project, I might be too lazy and just add here an event. So with that being said, here you will get the value, which will be between 1 and -1, and 0 if you don't press a key, and then the character will move. The same thing will be with looking with the mouse, and jumping will be when you press the space bar. And jump is an event that is created from Unreal, and it will check some things like if you are already in the air, you can't jump. So next thing we are looking at is spawn the projectile. We are going to remove the input touch, and also here is a branch without an execution pipeline. So I don't really know why it is there. We can remove it too. There is an access node, we can remove this as well. Oh, sorry. So I mark these 3 parts and this node, and we can remove that. And here is again a check if we are using motion controllers, we can remove this as well. And then we need to plug in this value straight into here. So now we want to look at our spawn projectile function. So how is it working? We got here play montage and set here an animation. So I remove this connection, and we look what will happen now. So as you can see, this is just a kickback of the gun. So we connect them again, and now you got here the next thing. As you can hear, when I shoot, there is a sound played. I remove that one here, and you can see the gun is silent again. So what do we have here? We got the actor location, and you see here the reference to self. We are inside our first person character, so self means the first person character. And we get the location of the actor or self, and we play that sound file. So this is how this is working. And then we are spawning here our projectile. This here is our projectile, and here we give him the information where it has to spawn. And I will break down here the transform. So we got another location right now, and I set it to 300 because 0 would be beneath the floor, and we want to see it. So now you can see it is spawning there, and it does not matter where I am, it will always spawn there and fly into this direction. Why it is even flying, we will talk about later. So everything is back to the default settings. So now we are looking here. This is how the direction of the bullet is determined. We got our first person camera, which is basically this camera. So talking about our view where we are looking at, this is the perspective. We get the world rotation, the direction we are looking in, and this will be the direction where the bullet is flying at. Then we got here the location. The location is depending on a gun offset, which is just how far away from the gun the bullet shall be spawned. If I increase the value to 300, you see it will spawn far or further away. But this will also lead to some issues like this here. So I'm setting it back to the default value, which was 100. Then we got here a sphere. So when we are looking at our viewport, you can see here the sphere, and you can see it is here in front of our barrel. This one here. So we get the location of the sphere inside the world. We are adding our gun offset, and this is where the transform, where the bullet will be spawned. So this is how we are in shooting. So when we were in the viewport, I saw we still have them here. We now need to remove them as well, otherwise they would be spawned inside the game. So now going back here to the event graph, we covered all of that. Now we want to look at our projectile. You can just click here to browse and it will show you where the projectile is, but it's in the same folder anyway. So now we are looking into this. We got again the viewport where you can see the bullet, then we got the construction script which is empty, and then we got here our event graph. So here is another event, it's the event hit. So as soon as the bullet hits something, it will call this function. So let's look at this here. We got the true statement. If we got here the other object we are hitting, and we can now ask information from this object, and if it is simulating physics and the condition is true, then we will add an impulse. We will now add here a print string for the case that it is false and the bullet hit something that is not simulating physics. So when we hit here, you will see nothing happens, but when we shoot here, it will say false, and many false because the ball is bouncing. So we are going to remove this here again and look further into it, because now we know if it is interacting, this thing will be called. We are removing this right now, so you can see when we are hitting it now, nothing will happen. So what is it doing? It gets the velocity of self. Self is now our projectile again, and then we get the location of self at the point when it is called. So when it is hit, we get the location. And the velocity will be multiplied by 100. If we reduce it to 1, you will see there is almost no impact. And if you are going to increase the value, you will see the impact is way heavier. So back to the default setting. Now what we are doing, we are creating an impulse at the location with the determined velocity. So, and then we're going to destroy the actor. I don't know if you saw it, but if we are shooting this, the bullet will be removed, but if you're shooting here, it will fly away. So when we remove this, we can shoot the bullet and it won't be removed at all. There would be, for instance, another possibility. You could also say you want the other actor to be destroyed. Okay, thought so. This is the other actor, just put it in here, because the reference is to self, it will destroy itself. But if we change the reference to the hit object, it will destroy the hit object. As you can see, they are removed. So this is how you could change things. I set it back to the default, and we did not answer the question why it is even moving. That's because we got here a projectile. You can also select this here in the viewport if you like to. But if we're going to remove the projectile and we press play, you will see it won't move. This is because now it is not a projectile anymore. The projectile is what it is moving. And as you can see, you can also set up here the speed. You can increase it. And this will also increase the impact, of course. Or you can also decrease it, the value. Well, yeah, it will drop like a stone, because we have here also set up the gravity I want to remove anyway. So this is the gravity. If it is 0, there is no such thing like a gravity. So now we're shooting again, and now you can look how the bullet is moving in slow motion, which also will decrease the impact. So we will get here back the default settings. or we might even make it a little bit stronger. So now I will shoot the bullet, and as you can see, it goes off to the left. It does not really hit the crosshair. And when I'm close, it's pretty okay, it will hit, but if I'm further away, it won't really work. That's the general purpose I want to cover in another video. And the only thing that is missing is now our crosshair. We have no idea where it is coming from. Back again, we are looking into the world settings, and we got here our HUD class. Click here and you will see it's in the same folder again. Look at it. And here we will see a virtual reality reference again, and we're going to delete this and connect this pipeline straight here. So what is this here? The event receive draw HUD. It's a tick event. A tick event is an event that is called every time a frame is rendered. So it depends on your frame rate, and of course you want a crosshair on each frame, not every second. So we got here the X and the Y position of our screen. We divide it by 2, and that's the input where the texture is drawn. This plus 20 was just a setting from Unreal because it was a little bit a better setting with the bullet drop, but we removed the bullet drop. Here inside you now see where the texture is. It is inside the texture folder. That's the texture we are using for the crosshair. And here is also something where you can slightly change the color. It's set to default settings, so you can change it, for instance, to black, and then it will be black. But it is just changing the current color, which is red, so you won't color it green or something like that. So connecting back up, and a little thing we can do right now, the rest will be covered in the other video. We got now half the size of our screen, and then we are drawing on half of the screen the crosshair, and of course we don't want to start drawing it on the center on the screen. We want to have half that size to draw it so it is really centered. So we are going to subtract 8, and that's our new value then. We're doing the same down here. So now we put in our new value, we subtract 8, and now we will be a little bit closer to the middle, but this won't change anything with the bullet moving to the left of the screen. So we will talk about that in the next video. Thank you for watching.
Subscribe. Like the video. Visit Patreon.